All of these characters, they all have something pretty obvious in common, but I want you to just take a second and think about what that might be. Got it? Okay, now obviously they all have the power to control electricity, but if you said black, you weren't wrong either. That's actually why we're here. Have you ever noticed that there are a lot of black superheroes that have this power? If not, I mean, good for you, but I'm sorry I'm about to ruin that. Now, before anyone even gets the chance to go, oh, well, I actually have a list of black characters whose powers aren't electricity, I want to make it clear that I don't mean all. I don't even mean most, but there's enough that there's a pattern, and that's just kind of weird. Let's just call this trope Black Lightning, because it sounds tight, and it's also the name of the character that started it all. Even though Storm debuted 2 years before him, it's a little obvious that Black Lightning is the godfather of the electric black superhero. The story behind this is kind of interesting too, so let's just get into it. First, let's travel back to the 70s. The main things that come to mind for me when I think about this decade are disco music and blaxploitation movies. Films of this genre were some of the earliest ones that portrayed black people as the hero, and not just sidekicks, villains, and victims. While originally targeted towards urban African Americans, it wasn't long before these movies blew up and became popular among everyone. This is the reason why so many black comic books and heroes were inspired by the protagonists of those films. Marvel had characters like Black Goliath, Misty Knight, and Luke Cage, while DC was lagging behind in terms of representation. After seeing the success Marvel was having with Luke Cage, DC decided that they need a black protagonist of their own. A character that could act as a beacon of hope for their community. A role model for young kids everywhere, and most importantly, someone that would draw in the black audience. Their first choice was a hero named the Black Bomber, and please don't be eating or drinking anything for this next part because you might choke. Black Bomber was a racist white man that would turn into a black superhero when he was under stress.
Nigga said Mizkif? Who was in the car?
Yep, racist Hulk was their answer. And that's not even the worst part. He got his powers because of a camouflage experiment gone wrong in Vietnam that was trying to make soldiers more difficult to see. And apparently his costume was basically a basketball uniform. DC's first black superhero was going to be a white racist.
That ain't Pete.
This actually got approved too, but fortunately for everyone, the editor who gave it the green light left before it was even printed. DC still needed that hero, so what did they do?
Nah, I'm not gonna lie. Making your first black hero a racist white man that only turns black when he's stressed out is crazy, bro. Nigga walking down the street, a nigga, turn into a black man.
In comes Tony Isabella, a comic writer who had previously worked for Marvel. He actually co-created Misty Knight and Black Goliath. He also worked on Hero for Hire, which featured Luke Cage. When he began working for DC, Isabella was handed the Black Bomber script and was asked to salvage it. For some reason, he had to convince the editors at DC that the Black Bomber was the worst possible idea. It eventually ended up working, and they decided to give him a few weeks to develop a replacement hero, so he came up with Black Lightning. Black Lightning was actually a bit of a passion project for Isabella. He grew up in a segregated area, and the first black friends he had were comic fans he met in a comic book reading club that he started when he was 17. In an interview he gave with Sci-Fi Wire, he said, "It just struck me as fundamentally unfair that there weren't more heroes of colors for my black friends. I always told myself if I got into comics, I would try to work on characters of color, as well as create characters of color." Looking at his work history, he did just that. He mainly wanted to create a really positive character, so he spent most of his creative process working on Jefferson Pierce, the Olympic athlete turned inner-city school teacher, as opposed to his alter ego Black Lightning, the vigilante. Apparently, he only came up with the idea for Black Lightning a few hours before the pitch meeting. As Jefferson Pierce, the character was a mild-mannered, positive role model for his community. As Black Lightning, he was much cooler and came with a sick costume with a fake afro and a mask. Also, the reason why we're all here, he was given the power to emit and absorb electricity. In September of 1973, Hanna-Barbera Productions, responsible for the making of most of your parents' favorite childhood cartoons, created a show called Super Friends. This was an action-adventure Saturday morning cartoon that was based on the Justice League and other associated DC comics. It got canceled after just 16 episodes, but it was rebooted in 1977 as the all-new Super Friends Hour. Around this time, diversity was becoming more popular in cartoons, so Hanna-Barbera was in the market for a black superhero. Unfortunately, DC had Black Lightning, right? Well, based on the deal that DC made with Tony Isabella, DC would have to pay royalties to him for whatever Black Lightning appeared in. Ultimately, Hanna-Barbera was cheap, and they decided not to use him. There were only a couple more options, but they really liked Black Lightning. So instead of taking the L, they just made their own original character. Everyone, this is Black Vulcan, another electric black superhero. It's obvious that he was meant to be Black Lightning, and he basically was in every way except name and pants. Tony Isabella actually believed that Black Lightning would be appearing in the show right up until the first episode aired. Angry at DC's decision to allow Hanna-Barbera to rip off his character, he left, further straining their relationship. At this point in time, there were
Look at the white man trying to steal when they don't want to pay a nigga for his hard work. They like, we'll just copy and paste it.
a handful of popular black superheroes. Two of them were basically copy and paste, and we can't forget to re-mention Storm at this point. Still too early to ask why so many black heroes use electricity, but it's a hell of a start, honestly. Let's move on to the 90s. A group of black comic book artists and writers felt like there was still a lack of representation of black people in comic books. To correct that, they created Milestone Media and launched 5 different comic book series, including Static, or as people between 25 and 35 know him, Static Shock. Static was supposed to be a more modern take on Spider-Man, but because of his abilities, some pretty obvious comparisons got made between him and Black Lightning.
If you're curious, there are a number of reasons why DC didn't sue Milestone for this.
DC actually published Milestone comics, so in a roundabout way, they would kind of be suing themselves. There's actually a law that says you can't copyright general superpowers, and electricity is just as general as fire and ice.
True.
The similarities between the two characters really stopped at their skin color and abilities. There are plenty of other hero ripoffs that actually warranted lawsuits if they were worth it.
DC and Marvel were famous for being petty and copying each other's characters.
Speaking of DC, let's do another check-in on them. They went on to release even more black characters with electrical powers from the late 90s to the early 2000s, including Black Lightning's daughters, Thunder and Lightning, as well as Jakeem Thunder, kind of. They also absorbed Static's universe into their multiverse, basically making him a DC character as well. Focusing in on the year 2000, I think we get the final piece of the puzzle.
Static Shock, a kids cartoon based on the 90s Static comic, began airing on Kids WB.
Static Shock was a huge success. It's award-winning and is still regarded by many as one of the best animated superhero shows of all time.
Facts.
In its last season, the show's ratings for kids between 9 and 14 were only surpassed by Pokemon. I think that should tell you just how popular the show really was.
Static Shock
Static
was
Shock
that nigga.
featured cameos from many DC characters.
What y'all don't know is they really made that show about me.
Harley Quinn to the Justice League. And the one that you would most expect to happen kind of did in Season 3. Static was meant to look up to Black Lightning as his idol, but as we saw earlier, when he gets involved, things get complicated. Black Lightning was set to make an appearance in Season 3, Episode 15 of the show, but DC didn't allow them to use him, because they would have to pay royalties to Tony Isabella. In true Hanna-Barbera fashion, a new character was made. This is Soul Power, who again is Black Lightning.
Soul Power! Come on, bro. Like, bro. This shit gets wicked, bro. Come on, dog. Soul Power! Like, bro.
Everything except name. At this point, it's obvious that DC started and fed into the trope. It just got out of hand. In 2004, they debuted another cartoon, Justice League Unlimited. Season 1, Episode 9 of the show featured a team of heroes that were supposed to be an updated version of some of the characters from the all-new Super Friends Hour. Black Lightning copy Black Vulcan was supposed to be in the show, but there was confusion over who owned the character, so they did like so many before them had done and made an even newer, new character. This is Juice. He's electric too. Juice was meant to be Black Vulcan, who was meant to be Black Lightning, who could have been Black Bomber, and thank goodness that he wasn't, because that would have been crazy.
Black Power! I'm not gonna lie. Dog, that's insane, bro. Nigga, racist white man, Black Power! That shit's fucking insane, bro. Oh my god.
Anyway, by this point, it was
Bro,
hard to
what the
imagine.
fuck?
In 2009, comic...
Nah, that one blows me. A racist white man who, when he's stressed out, turns into a nigga. and his power is like bombing. Black Power!
Writer Mark.
Nah,
Waid
these
began
niggas is
releasing
hilarious,
Canadian-
bro.
Issue 9 marked the first appearance of a character named Volt that was made to poke fun at the trope.
He's
Nigga
black,
said, "Oh my God, it's
electric,
Uncle
and
Ruckus."
aware that his power is cliche.
He even shows embarrassment that electricity is what he's stuck with and says things like, "Surprise, I'm a black superhero with electrical powers. I know, I know."
LOL.
So to answer our earlier question, why do so many black heroes have electrical powers? In one sentence, DC Comics and the people that made Scooby-Doo started it. I kind of wish I was never aware it was a thing, because whenever I see it, I shake my head and my neck hurts. Again, I don't think it's offensive, just weird, and kind of funny at this point, especially when it's unintentional.
DC went on to make even more black characters with electrical powers.
Marvel has Miles Morales. Jamie Foxx played Electro. The Shocker in Homecoming was black.
The trope even transcends American comic books.
I like anime. I love Naruto. This
Wow.
whole village was so cool, and they all had electricity. One of them literally uses black lightning. Even the video games I like aren't safe. Street Fighter, Mega Man, Dead by Daylight. The gray guy was black. Nice lore. Electricity. Come on, man. Now, whenever you see a black character that uses electricity and you just cringe a little bit, I want you to say, "Damn it, DC. You should have just went with Black Bomber." Thanks for watching. Peace.
That's crazy though. Nigga says, so when do I get my electrical powers? If you didn't get your powers December 2021, then I don't know what to tell you, gang.